So you can see where the prizes actually are presented by the king. And here we have some sporty people running around. It's a good, actually good run if you run all around the whole island of Kungsholm, and that's 6 miles. And there are pedestrian paths and bike paths all the way around the island, so it is actually really nice. On the left-hand side you can see I don't know whether I can call it a masterpiece of modern architecture. There is a Congress Center with metal sticks decorating the facade, and behind that a couple of office buildings and a hotel. It has sort of become the new landmark in the central part. Earlier it was the City Hall Tower, but now if you are standing behind those you cannot see it anymore. And that is why that building was criticized a lot when it was built there a couple of years ago. Today is a day with a lot of traffic in the afternoon, because most people will be leaving the city. It's popular to have a summer house outside the central area, so people, and since many people have flexible working hours, they can work more at the beginning of the week, an extra hour, and then they can leave their jobs earlier on Friday before or after lunch. And what do we do if we have a summer house? Well, it's maybe we grow vegetables, but it's not an awful lot we do that nowadays. It's popular to have flowers and do a little bit of gardening there and just relax. If the summer house, as preferred, is located on the shoreline of a lake, then it is possible to, of course, to go fishing and swimming too. On the right-hand side, the small island with one building on it only is the smallest of the 14 islands. You can see it between the bridges here, Strömsborg. Behind that, the island of Riddarholmen, and just right across the bridge to the right is the island of the old town, Gamla stan, as we call it in Swedish. The brown building with the round back is the parliament. That is where 349 members work, and in right front, the orange and the brown building built together is the headquarters of the Swedish government. That's where the Swedish Prime Minister Fredrik Reinfeldt has his office, and also many other ministers too. And this part of the city where we are now is very modern, except for one building, the church in front of us, that dates from the middle of the 18th century. I don't know whether there is somebody special staying at the Sheraton Hotel, because there were policemen here yesterday standing in front of the hotel, and also today. It can be a pop star. Britney Spears, for instance, likes to stay at Sheraton when she comes here to give a concert. And Justin Timberlake, or whatever he is called also. I'm very sorry, I said that I'm not into pop music, so I don't really know the stars. I know Rolling Stones, and they are, you know, grandfathers now, so that's more my generation. Or they can be great-grandfathers also, yes. And they stay at the Grand when they come here. So does Bruce Springsteen, who comes regularly to Sweden. He's very popular here. The railway station on the left-hand side is being renovated, as you can see. In actual fact, there is a new commuter train station being built here, so that That's why this part of the city looks like a construction site, and it is. A 7-kilometer long tunnel has been built here, or is being built underground beneath us, and also the station in right front. On top of the station there will be a hotel called Continental, built now. There was another hotel there called Continental, which was taken down, and now they built a new one, probably much taller than the old one was. So this is the 1960s and 1970s architecture. Well, except for of course, the railway station, which is older, from the middle of the 19th century. And this is just office buildings. There are very few people living at the very heart of the city. Oh yeah, taxi drivers, they are really good drivers, aren't they? And I don't know whether you heard, but I said Egypt. And that is Irish people say, instead of idiots, use the word Egypt. Now we will take right here soon and start driving along King's Road, which is one of the older streets in the central part from the 1920s. And if you think you are in the United States now, yeah. There are things that look familiar, I think. Burger King, 7-Eleven, but then we do have a kebab house also, something Turkish. So as for cuisine in Stockholm, you can find any cuisine, I think, in the world, because this is a multi-ethnical country. 9.5 million people in this country were not born in Sweden, but somewhere else. The biggest group is Scandinavians, or people from the Nordic countries. We want to include Finland as well. And then we have had 2 waves of migration here. The first one was labor force, and that started at the end of the 1950s, after the Second World War. Sweden had not taken part in the war, and that is why we did not have anything destroyed here. It was everything was working, all the factories and so on, so we needed a lot of labor force. So Nordic or Scandinavians started moving to Sweden, especially Finns, actually, from Finland, and then we got also labor force from the former Yugoslavia, we got labor force from Greece and Italy. And then in the 1970s began the second wave of migration, which was political refugees. The Swedish government decided that since Sweden was a very wealthy country in the 1960s, the wealthiest in the whole world, it would be human to give a political asylum for refugees from countries where things were not as well and not as calm as here. At the moment, Sweden is the only European Union country that gives all the political refugees from Syria a permanent permit to stay in Sweden immediately when they arrive here. And I think last year we got around 50,000 refugees from there, and I think the number is increasing. The only problem is it's very difficult for them to get here. The marketplace on the right-hand side is called Haymarket Square. And then the concert hall, the blue building, is the one where the King, His Majesty Carl XVI Gustav, presents the Nobel Prizes. That is to say, a diploma and a medal to each of the prize winners, except the Peace Prize. The Peace Prize winner receives the prize in Oslo. The 10th of December is the day when the prizes are presented, and the banquet is held in the City Hall. On the 11th, there is always a dinner hosted by the King in the Royal Palace. Usually the Peace Prize winner attends that dinner too. And now, if you are wondering, You must be wondering what the royal family in Sweden is look like. You will soon know what they are look like. I have a postcard with the royal family which you can pass around. And then I have another one of Crown Princess Victoria with her husband, Prince Daniel, and the daughter who is not a baby anymore. She has started working. She's 2.5 years. Yeah, she did have the first official job already, opened a fairy tale path for small kiddies. She's almost 2.5 years now. The King Carl XVI Gustav, has been on the throne 40 years already and is 68 now, getting grey-haired, and the hair is thinning out also, as you can see. Queen Sylvia is actually 2.5 years older than the husband, but doesn't look like that, doesn't look it at all. She's 70. The first daughter, Crown Princess Victoria, will be 37 this year. And the second child, Prince Carl Philip, is 35, and the youngest daughter, 32. The youngest daughter, Princess Madeleine, got married last year and had actually a baby already in February. They acted very fast. Obviously, the husband is American. Maybe that's the way in America. The baby daughter was actually baptized now last weekend here in Sweden. Leonor is her name, and they live in New York. And nowadays the king has no power, so it doesn't really make any difference who sits on the throne. Although, well, they have representative functions, and if they make a lot of blunders, so that's not good for the country. So it is good to have a person who knows what he is doing and saying. Despite the fact that Sweden is only a constitutional monarchy, that is to say, we have a parliamentary democracy. The decisions are made by the parliament and carried out by the government. It's interesting, though, that on official occasions, it's the king that comes first in procession. And number two, as you might imagine, after him is not the prime minister, but it is the speaker of the parliament. And only after that, the prime minister. It simply gives you an idea about the democracy, that it is the people in Sweden that elect the members of the parliament, and that's why we can say that political power comes from the people. And then if we elect idiots to parliament, it's our own fault. We cannot blame anybody else. Oh. Gitte thought that was a good joke. She's laughing aloud here. Maybe she thinks that we have a lot of idiots there. I don't know. I don't dare to ask. And there are 349 of them, so that they can be all kinds of people.